Hi, Bridge family. I'm Mike Scott, if you don't know who I am, and I'm just helping fill in a little bit for Chuck. He's taking some time off from the Bridge Connection, and so I'm going to try to take a few sessions and actually go with you through the book of Joel. So if you've got a Bible and you want to grab a Bible with me, we're gonna go through chapter 1 tonight, but I just want to give a little bit of an overview of this book, and then we're just going to go through it. It's only 3 chapters long, but I think Joel, even though it was written about 2,800 years ago, is very relevant for what's going on in our country today. Joel just jumps right into it in Joel chapter 1, verse 1. It says, "The word of the Lord that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel." It says, "Hear this, you elders, and give ear, all you inhabitants of the land. Has anything like this happened in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? Tell your children about it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation." We are definitely living in times that I believe even our older folks have never seen. Times when things are happening in the world that are global, that when something happens on one side of the globe, it affects the other side of the globe. Things I've never seen in my life. I'm almost 50 years old. And so here's what happened was in the book of Joel, there was a plague of locusts that came and completely devoured everything in the land. And so now Israel was in a lot of trouble. There's a chance that these locusts are symbolic of an actual army that came against them. I think scholars would have different opinions on both sides. One way or another, we know that God knew this was coming, and actually God had brought it. And I'm going to talk more about that as the days go by. But let's just go right on here. I want to show you something that happened in Israel, but that was affecting every person in every station of life in Israel. It says, "What the chewing locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust left, the crawling locust has eaten. And what the crawling locust left, the consuming locust has eaten." There's a process here that's going on. I have a picture of like a tree with fruit all over it. And these locusts come and they just eat all of the fruit all over that tree. And there's just a swarm that just comes and just completely devours that tree. And then now whatever's left is just laying on the ground, and now they're crawling along the ground, and they're just picking up whatever they can off of the ground, and they're eating all of that. So they've chewed and they've swarmed, and now they're crawling, and then they come to a place where it says the consuming locust has eaten, and basically they are just picking up whatever scrap there is left. And that's what would happen when locusts would take a town or a country over, is they would leave nothing behind. Listen to everybody who is affected by what happened in this time. It says, "Awake, you drunkards, and weep, and wail, you drinkers of wine, because of the new wine. For it has been cut off from your mouth. For a nation has come up against my land, strong and without number. His teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he has the fangs of a fierce lion. He has laid waste my vine and ruined my fig tree. He has stripped it bare and thrown it away. Its branches are made white." So that's giving an idea of the desolation there. But the first person he talks to is the drunkards. I would call them the lazy. They're the ones who are just consuming, just taking whatever it is they can take, and they're these lazy drunkards. And so we move on to the lovers, and it says in verse 8, "Lament like a virgin girded with sackcloth for the husband of her youth. For the grain offering and the drink offering have been cut off from the house of the Lord." And so you have a young virgin who is about to be married, and now she has lost her husband. He's been cut off, and possibly from hunger, or we don't know what it is. But there's this virgin who was getting ready to be married, and now she's lamenting. We've got the leaders. It says, "The priests mourn who minister to the Lord. The field is wasted and the land mourns, for the grain is ruined, the new wine is dried up, and the oil fails." And so we've got everyone from the drunk, the lazy drunk, to the lovers, to the leaders here. And then it goes right on to the laborers. In verse 11, it says, "Be ashamed, you farmers, and wail, you vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because of the harvest, because the harvest of the field has perished. The vine has dried up, and the fig tree has withered. The pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree. All the trees of the field are withered. Surely joy has withered away from the sons of men. Obviously, some of those pictures there are pictures of Israel. You've got the fig tree, which is often a picture of Israel, and also the vine, even the pomegranate and the palm, and the apple. So this could be a symbolic thing, but obviously something very real has happened to these people, and they are realizing it. You've got the lazy, you've got the lovers, you've got the leaders, you've got the laborers, those farmers. And it goes, as we get further, we're going to find that I think the saddest part of this is going to be in verse 18, when it says the animals groan, and it isn't because of animals groaning, but it's because of the little lambs. It's because our children, the little ones, the ones who have no part in causing this to come, who have no part in helping it to get better, they're just affected by it. And our decisions that we make affect everyone around us. The culture that we create and that we live in affects everyone around us. And so we say, now what do we do? What do we do when we come into a time when our land is being consumed? It was interesting tonight. I was just in Rite Aid. I just went into Rite Aid and I just came here from work. I just came over from work, so I had to grab some mousse and throw it in my hair and just do something to try to be presentable here. But it was interesting in Rite Aid, there were many aisles that were empty. They're gone. There's nothing there, and it's because there's a shortage right now in our country, very much like what's going on here. And maybe we're just at the chewing stage. Maybe we're at the swarming stage. We've watched our country swarm around different places, whether it was to try to get toilet paper, to our own disgrace, fighting over toilet paper, whatever it is, or trying to get bottled water, or whatever it is. Yeah, I've seen the nations swarm. I've seen people all lining up and trying to get whatever they can before it runs out. Because there's going to come a time where we've gone from the chewing, from the swarming, to the crawling. And there may come a time to the consuming. And this is often what happens in a slow process in a country. And so I say, what do we do before we get to that place of crawling? You know what I would say? I would say, let's crawl now. Let's get on our knees now. And let's talk to the Lord about this. It says in verse 13, gird yourselves and lament, you priests. Wail, you who minister before the altar. Come and lie all night in sackcloth, you who minister to my God, for the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your God. So he goes back to the leaders and he says, spiritual leaders, I want you to lead what is going to change and bring about change in this situation. I want you now to be the first ones to lie all night in sackcloth. I want you to be the ones to lament first. It's interesting, you'll see many times in the Bible where a prophet, while everyone else is prospering and everyone else is just consuming and doing what they're doing, you would see a prophet weeping and going through the town and saying, guys, it's going to be bad. It's going to get bad. You even see times when Jesus is in the garden. I remember when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane and he's praying and weeping, and what are his disciples doing? They're sleeping. But you know, there are times when we as leaders and we as the Christians look like we're all concerned about things that no one else is concerned about. For some of us, it could be the issue of abortion, or it could be other social issues that really bother us, but others aren't bothered by them. But then when as we begin to see victory because we've been in a place of praying and on our knees, then when the trial hits the multitudes, we're in a better place. So he says in verse 14, consecrate a fast, call a sacred assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of your God, and cry out to the Lord. Here's how we deal with a pandemic. Here's how we deal with something that perhaps we have not directly been involved in what has come upon our land. Maybe we have not been directly involved in whatever the sin is of the land, whatever has caused our land to come to a place of such desolation. But God says, I want you to be like Jeremiah, like Daniel, like Nehemiah, who say, Lord, we have sinned, and to come and to take responsibility as leaders. First thing is to consecrate. Consecrate a fast. What consecrate means simply means to set aside a time to fast. Say, we are going to fast and pray. I've been hearing Chuck more in these last couple of years than I've ever heard him calling us to fasting. He even called just recently that we would just take a Wednesday and fast. And I would ask you to consecrate a time to say, from now until the Lord tells me not to, on Wednesdays or on Saturdays or whenever it is, I'm going to take some time and fast. I'm going to stop eating food and I'm going to fast. And the next thing he says is to call the sacred assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land. So you consecrate it for yourself and you say, I'm going to do this. And the next thing is you call others and say, will you pray with me? And we as a body pray together. The Lord loves it when we as a body pray and move together. So you call others to say, hey, God is calling me to this fast. I've consecrated this time. Will you consecrate that time with me? That's what's happening at the bridge right now. Is there has been a lot of times of many people on Zooms, and different groups have been getting together, sometimes in living rooms, whatever it is, large groups, small groups, and praying and fasting together. The Lord loves that. And then the last thing it simply says is to cry out to the Lord. Consecrate, call people together, cry out to the Lord. Cry out to the Lord simply means to pray before him. Say, God, we are in the chewing, in the swarming stage. We can see that we're coming to a crawl, and we can see that it's coming to a place of consuming. But we're not going to wait till it gets there before we stop and say no more. We are going to fast. We are going to call others together with us. We are going to pray. I would encourage you, even as I finish here, to just ask the Lord, is there a time that you would like me to fast? Are there some people you would like me to call together? And is there something you would specifically like us to pray about? Amen.